Good morning, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. This week we have for you news from across the industry and an exclusive interview with the directors of a company that have been the major transporters of vaccines in India. Plus, in a very special report, what is Bombay Goods Transport Association doing on the cricket field? But first, the major headlines this week. Ashok Leyland inaugurates dealership in Guwahati to strengthen its presence in Northeast India. Switch Mobility Limited to supply 300 e-buses to Bengaluru BMTC. Delhi government allows electric light commercial vehicles on 250 roads during no entry hours. Mahindra Finance enters new age vehicle leasing and subscription business under Quick Lease brand. Rivigo appoints Rohan Mittal as Chief Financial Officer. Nitin Gadkari says automobile scrappage policy is win-win policy for all the stakeholders as he inaugurates a scrapping facility. And members of Bombay Goods Transport Association prepare for a battle on the cricket ground in BPL Season 4, the in-house cricket tournament having as many as 12 teams. All this coming up in this week's episode after this short break. Stay tuned and keep watching Trans India.
याद है कुछ इसी तरह का स्टंट मैंने आज से करीब 30 साल पहले भी किया था, लेकिन आज इस डबल ट्रक्स के स्टंट की वजह कुछ और है। डबल गारंटी पेश है नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 जो आता है डबल गारंटी के साथ। महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनके नए महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 का माइलेज आपके मौजूदा ट्रक से ज्यादा है। अगर ऐसा नहीं हुआ तो कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस। नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 आपको देता है गारंटीड रीसेल वैल्यू 5 साल के बाद। खरीदते समय माइलेज की गारंटी और बेचते समय रीसेल वैल्यू की गारंटी, तो हुई ना डबल गारंटी।
Welcome back, viewers. I am Girish Mirchandani and you're watching Trans India. The last couple of months have been very encouraging for the automobile segment and also the commercial vehicle segment. फेडरेशन ऑफ ऑटोमोबाइल डीलर्स एसोसिएशन, जिसे हम FADA के नाम से भी जानते हैं, उन्होंने अक्टूबर के महीने के सेल्स डेटा रिलीज़ किए और साथ ही साथ 42 डे फेस्टिव विंडो जिसे हम कहते हैं उसके सेल्स भी रिलीज़ किए। हम आपको बता रहे हैं कमर्शियल व्हीकल सेल्स इस दौरान कैसे रहे। हैव अ लुक एट दीज चार्ट्स। फॉर द मंथ ऑफ October 21, commercial vehicle sales stood at 56,732 vehicles in October 2021, a growth of 26.45% over 44,865 vehicles in October 20. However, if we compare the data to October 2019, the sales are still down 11.2%. Breaking the commercial vehicle down further, in the LCV segment, October 21 saw a growth of 4% only, with companies selling 34,162 LCVs. Compared to October 19, we are still 15.7% lower. In the MCV segment, companies recorded a growth of almost 80% over October 20. In October 2021, manufacturers sold 3,694 MCVs as compared to 2,051 in October 20. Furthermore, October 2021 is 13.8% higher than October 19, where the companies had sold 3,246 MCVs. The HCV segment, however, recorded a huge growth. In October 21, companies sold 15,874 HCVs as compared to 7,163 in October 20. However, if we compare the same to October 19, there's a drop of 10%. Where in October 19, the company sold 17,735 HCVs. Now let's take a look at the 42-day festival period. During the 42 days festive period, commercial vehicles recorded sales of 77,066 units as compared to 70,361 units in the same period last year. However, as compared to the festive period of 2019, the sales were still lower by 14.59%. For the last couple of months, we have been seeing that commercial vehicle sales as well as movement has been growing up. The data coming from the e-way bills, from the GST and from the toll collections are very encouraging, and transporters are getting back to work. The manufacturers too are very optimistic that the future is going to be back to pre-COVID levels very soon. The OEMs are lining up a lot of launches in the HCV, MCV and LCV segment, and the one segment to watch out for is the CNG and the electric vehicle segment. We shall be getting more updates on those segments as we get by. For now, let's move on to other news from the road transport and automobile industry. Ashok Leyland, flagship company of the Hinduja Group and India's leading commercial vehicle manufacturer, inaugurated a new 3S dealership, DR Brijmohan and Sons in Guwahati, Assam. Spread over 1,15,000 square feet, it offers 18 bays, wheel alignment and accident repair facility. This state-of-the-art dealership is located in Lokra, the transport hub of Guwahati. Ashok Leyland has also 10 upcoming outlets in Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh and Tripura to cater to the rising demand in Northeast India. Furthermore, the company delivered 33 fully built 4825 multi-axle 16-wheeler AVTR to Dalmia Cements in Guwahati. This serves as a strong testimonial for Ashok Leyland's products and the trust its customers have on its performance in the terrains of Northeast India. Commenting on this occasion, Mr. Sanjay Saraswat, President MNHCV Ashok Leyland said, Northeast of India has always been an important market for Ashok Leyland, with the booming infrastructural development taking place across the region. Ashok Leyland aims to play a critical role in terms of logistics and mobility solutions in this region, and we are increasing our presence through expansion of our network and back-end infrastructure to cater to the same. Speaking at the inauguration, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, Head MNHCV Sales and Network Ashok Leyland said, with our newly launched sales, service and spares dealership in Guwahati, we aim to provide holistic service to our customers here in Northeast, from sales to after-sales service. Through our Service Mandi, a digital platform, we have already assisted 250 customers with site services, and with this dealership, we aim to scale up our operations and accessibility to our brand to all the potential customers. We have also set up an exclusive warehouse in Guwahati to address the vehicle demand in the region smoothly. As an organization, we have always focused to cater to the requirements of our customers in line with our philosophy of Aapki Jeet, Hamari Jeet. Meanwhile, moving to electric vehicles, Switch Mobility Limited, also known as Switch, a subsidiary of Ashok Leyland, is proud to announce the supply and operation of 300 12-meter electric buses for Bengaluru Metropolitan Transport Corporation. The fleet and charging infrastructure will be supplied, operated and maintained by Switch for a period of 12 years on a gross cost contract model under the FAME-2 scheme. The state-of-the-art, technologically advanced, low-noise buses will make commuting more comfortable for the people of Bengaluru. The buses are expected to reduce fuel consumption by around 5.5 million litres annually, leading to a reduction in carbon emissions by more than 14,500 tons per year alongside cost savings for BMTC. Andy Palmer, Executive Vice President and CEO of Switch Mobility Limited, said, Switch is proud to serve the city of Bengaluru with a new fleet of technologically advanced electric buses. All Switch vehicles are zero emission, but we set the bar much higher, aiming for net zero carbon across all our operations. Passengers on our vehicles can travel in the comfort of knowing that the journey will emit no CO2 to impact the planet. Also, Mahesh Babu, COO of Switch Mobility Limited and CEO of Switch Mobility India, commented. He said, Switch is delighted to partner with BMTC as we work towards a common goal of sustainability. Through the deployment of 300 of our zero tailpipe emission electric buses, Switch will play a central role in reducing carbon in the city of Bengaluru. Slowly and steadily, the focus on electric vehicles seems to be growing. There has been significant sales of electric vehicles in the passenger segment, and states are also encouraging movement of goods and passengers by electric vehicles. With air pollution reaching alarming levels in the city of Delhi, Delhi Transport Minister Kailash Gehlot announced that electric light commercial vehicles will be allowed entry on about 250 roads during no-entry hours. He also said that the Transport Department will empanel manufacturers of electric kits for retrofitting of conventional internal combustion engines to electric ones, stating that the percentage of electric vehicles among total vehicle registration has now gone up to around 7%. The minister hoped it will further be raised to 25% by 2024 as targeted in the EV policy. With sales of passenger vehicles growing across India and people aspiring to have more vehicles, especially after COVID, companies are coming up with new ways to own vehicles. Buying is not just the only option that a customer now has. Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services Limited, part of the diversified Mahindra Group, announced the official launch of its leasing and subscription business, Quick Lease. This venture is a new age digital platform for vehicle leasing and subscription that aims to provide great convenience, flexibility and choice to customers across city. Mahindra Finance sees this as a great opportunity to create value for its stakeholders with a profitable business model and build a strong balance sheet out of emerging opportunities in this adjacent business vertical. In the initial phase, Quick Lease will launch its services in metro cities like Bengaluru, Chennai, Delhi, Gurugram, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Noida, Pune, and will further expand it to other cities across India, including Tier 2 cities, covering 30 locations over the next 1 year. Speaking on the new business launch, Ramesh Iyer, Vice President and Managing Director, Mahindra Finance, said, "Car leasing and subscription is a lucrative and fast-growing business in India. We aim to achieve a book size of Rs 10,000 crore in a span of 3 to 5 years. Leasing is seeing significant traction in the last mile mobility space, especially with EVs, something our business module will also focus on. With leasing being a relatively new concept for Indian retail customer, we wanted Mahindra Finance to be at the forefront of this module, facilitating millennials and new age corporates alike for hassle-free ownership of vehicles." Speaking of new business models, one company that has shaken up the road transport industry and is coming up with new models not just for business but also for its drivers. Yes, we are talking about Rivigo. Rivigo, which is India's full-stack logistics service provider and known for revolutionizing goods mobility in India and a crowned unicorn, announced the appointment of Rohan Mittal as its new Chief Financial Officer. His appointment at Rivigo demonstrates Rivigo's focus on making logistics safer, efficient and more humane. Founded in 2014, Rivigo has been at the forefront of transforming the sector with their global-first relay trucking model and a strong interplay of technology, data, culture and operations excellence to consistently provide unparalleled delivery times and reliability to their clients. The model also helps ensure that every truck driver who is referred to as a pilot now spends less time away from his family, thereby leading a life of meaning, dignity and respect. Commenting on the appointment, Deepak Garg, founder and CEO Rivigo, said, "We are very excited to have a young and dynamic leader like Rohan join Rivigo's mission. We have a huge agenda to build a platform that makes every truck pilot's life better through relay trucking. Rohan's expertise, leadership and first principle problem-solving approach will help Rivigo bring more innovations in the goods mobility space." As we all know, the road transport industry is undergoing a lot of change. जी हाँ, बदलाव. They say change is the only constant. And yes, the road transport industry has been changing very fast. पिछले कुछ सालों में कई ऐसे बदलाव हुए हैं जिससे रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री एफिशिएंट होते जा रही है. और एक और मेजर बदलाव जो अगले साल से कमर्शियल व्हीकल्स के लिए आने वाला है वो है द स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी. बट आर वी रेडी फॉर इट? मे बी येस, मे बी नॉट. द वन क्वेश्चन दैट कीप्स कमिंग अप नाउ एंड अगेन इज ट्रक स्क्रैपिंग के लिए कहाँ जाएंगे? And I guess the government is on the path to solve this problem and address this question. और एक सवाल जो बार बार उठते जा रहा है, स्क्रैपिंग पॉलिसी से किसका फ़ायदा होगा? I guess our Transport Minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari has answers to this one also. He has said that national automobile scrapping policy is a mutual win-win policy for all the stakeholders. Inaugurating the vehicle scrapping and recycling facility set up by Maruti Suzuki Toyotsu India Private Limited. He said the policy aims at creating an ecosystem for phasing out unfit and polluting vehicles from the Indian roads, and to meet this objective, the state-of-the-art scrapping and recycling units are needed. The minister said the policy will help in increasing automobile sales, provide employment, reduce import cost, generate incremental GST revenue, and help to solve the global shortage of semiconductor chip. Mr. Gadkari said the policy provides an important link in creating circular economy, that is waste to wealth for the country. He also said that 3 to 4 scrapping centers should be set up in every district. The RVSF inaugurated by the minister has been set up in an area of 11,000 square meters with a capacity of handling 24,000 vehicles per year. The plant has been set up by Maruti Suzuki India Limited in collaboration with Toyota Shusho Group. Mr. Gadkari congratulated Maruti Suzuki and Toyota Shusho Group and requested other stakeholders to come forward to create similar state-of-the-art scrapping and recycling facilities to help achieve the objectives of the policy. That's it from the news section this week. And coming up after this very short break, an exclusive interview with the directors of Coolex and a special report on the BGTA Premier League Season 4. Keep watching Trans India.
याद है कुछ इसी तरह का स्टंट मैंने आज से करीब 30 साल पहले भी किया था, लेकिन आज इस डबल ट्रक्स के स्टंट की वजह कुछ और है। डबल गारंटी पेश है नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 जो आता है डबल गारंटी के साथ। महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनके नए महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 का माइलेज आपके मौजूदा ट्रक से ज्यादा है। अगर ऐसा नहीं हुआ तो कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस। नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 आपको देता है गारंटीड रीसेल वैल्यू 5 साल के बाद। खरीदते समय माइलेज की गारंटी और बेचते समय रीसेल वैल्यू की गारंटी, तो हुई ना डबल गारंटी।
Welcome back viewers to our interaction segment. This week we will be talking to Rahul Agarwal and Kunal Agarwal, directors of Coolex. As we all know, the road transport industry is divided into various factions. There are companies who engage in transportation of various kinds of goods. However, one segment that stands out because of the sheer value and the importance of the cargo is the pharma segment. Medicines and vaccines have always been high value goods. In fact, each consignment in a truck runs into crores of rupees. And it is not easy, especially knowing that the Indian highways are devoid of any kind of security. In this segment today, we will be talking to Rahul and Kunal. This week, we shall be talking to Rahul and Kunal. And I just don't call them transporters, but I call them visionaries. Visionary because they took up a segment years ago and started building the infrastructure around it. They didn't know that the pandemic was coming, but they were ready for it any which ways. They have been into the movement of pharma, and in fact their customers have come up to them and asked them to enhance their operations to support them with better services, efficiency and timely delivery. Here's talking to Rahul and Kunal, the largest movers of vaccination across India. Rahul, give us a little background about Bhoruka Logistics, how it started and how has the journey been so far?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Girish. So we started, so of course this was an ancestral business which goes back almost 5 decades. But my generation of the family, we started this in 1997 as a company called Bhoruka Logistics Private Limited, which was founded by my father, late Mr. Subhash Agarwal, myself and my younger brother, Kunal Agarwal. The company was started with a predominant focus on fleet operations and on servicing the healthcare industry. And right from the beginning we were asset heavy. We sort of built our own containers. We focused on the pharma industry and were looking at giving end-to-end services to that segment.
And when did you get into business?
So I've been in business since 93. I was in Singapore for a couple of years working with a family concern doing commodity trading. And then 97 when I got back to India, that's when my father and me, we founded Bhoruka Logistics to sort of focus on this niche segment.
So Rahul, was logistics business your first option?
So logistics was a family business, but then we wanted to specialize in a particular segment, and healthcare was an area of interest to us. And when we also spoke to a lot of the captains of the industry, they said that there were a lot of challenges that this sector faced, which sort of needed to be fixed. So we wanted to take up this challenge and build something new for this sector and create a mark for ourselves.
It has always been said that road transport industry has been harsh to youngsters. What was the initial challenges that you faced?
So if you go back to the 90s, you would recollect that most of the fleet operations were single lorry owner concept, and it was a very highly fragmented market. So almost 90-95% of the fleet which you would provide to your clients were these normal open top with tarpaulin type trucks. Where the broker would provide you a vehicle and there would be an owner sitting in some village. So there was a complete disconnect, and there was no track and trace mechanism to sort of trace where these vehicles are going when they will reach the destination. So that was one of the biggest challenges in healthcare pharma, because predominantly they were sending very high value products Unlike your typical FMCG or food, where the value of the consignment in the trucks would be say 10 to 20 lakhs. Typical pharma truck starts at about 1 crore plus. So very high value products, human consumption, so again very sensitive, and it should have minimum handling. So those kind of challenges were there, and this was what was frustrating the pharma industry, because at those days, you take the example of Bombay Lucknow. It was a 15-day journey, 16-day journey. There was no guarantee, what extra co-loading or transshipments that the lorry owner would do. And today we are reaching Guwahati in less than 6 days. So those were the days where there was a lot to be done. A lot of challenges, the roadblocks, the road conditions, the trucks, the non-traceability. It was a multiple basket of issues, which we slowly worked on over the next 2 decades. We've seen a lot of changes.
And things are much easier now, right? If you compare it to how things were when you joined business.
Things have become more transparent now. We've migrated from ambient trucking to also cold chain with our brand called Coolex. And this is a brand I believe most people would have heard in the market, because we are in the we are in a very prominent position with Coolex. We've been doing a lot of food products, a lot of pharma products. We are also the principal driver for the vaccine distribution across India. And if you ask me what has become easy, I would say that there's a lot of visibility, there's an ease of operations. But then in those days, in the 90s or early 2000s, there was very limited work to be done. You hire a truck, you leave the truck, you leave it at God's mercy, and when it reaches, it reaches. Now it's more of an own fleet operation, so you got to be very careful. You've got to track and trace it every hour of the day, and then you got to preempt a lot of issues that you may face on the road, especially when you're carrying vaccines which are very temperature sensitive. You have to be very careful about the preventive maintenance of the vehicles, the AC units. A lot of advanced training is given to the drivers. So with the new challenges, there have been a lot of issues that have eased out. But then there are new type of challenges which have come up, which means adding more skills to your existing manpower, bringing in more trained manpower, improving the quality of your assets on the road to ensure that there is no breakdowns. Because if you have a vaccine truck which breaks down in the middle of the road and you don't have a contingency plan, then it's going to go bad.
Rahul, how important has IT been in your kind of business, especially when you have to monitor trucks, you have to monitor temperature, you have to make sure that the parameters are adhered to at all times. How challenging is that?
So see, Girish, I would say that IT is no longer add-on tool. It's a backbone of any logistics operation. And today, while we are talking of GPS and track and trace, which were the buzzwords then in the early 2000, and now we're talking of blockchain, we're talking of integration, we're talking of seamless connectivity. So it's no longer that if we as Coolex are carrying the vaccines from say a manufacturer in India, or imported vaccine which comes at the port and going up to the government depots or to the hospitals, but then that is just one leg of the whole chain. And there are multiple journeys that vaccine would have undertaken right from its origin up to the consumption. So now what the world is looking at is a seamless track and trace of that product. So whether the traceability has to ride with the product or with the service provider is the change that we will see in the coming times.
हमारे देश के वैज्ञानिक भी वैक्सीन के लिए जी जान से जुटे हैं। कोरोना की वैक्सीन जब भी आएगी, वो प्रत्येक भारतीय तक कैसे पहुंचे, इसके लिए भी सरकार की तैयारी जारी है।
Rahul, when was Coolex formed and what was the thought process behind having a separate segment under Coolex?
Yes, so I'll tell you, we had been doing a lot of pharma in the early 2000s, that is from 97 to 2010-11. We were, fleet heavy. We were running more than 300 trucks in the ambient pharma space. And cold chain had always been a very small part of the whole, opportunity till then. And, eventually the government wanted to bring in certain guidelines which are in play now, which are expected to, become a law. And these guidelines would mean that almost 70 to 80% of the entire pharma pie would transform from, ambient to some level of temperature control, which meant transport, storage, handling, everything should happen in that thing. So since we were doing a lot of work, FTL, LTL, so many other activities with the pharma companies, a lot of the industry captains reached out to us and said that, cold chain requires an organized player. There were a couple of players in existence then, but they wanted a very professionally managed and very efficient cold chain service provider, and that's where we were more of an industry minded, where the industry captains told us that, look, we trust you, and if you have the ability to build up a cold chain, we will support you. And that's what we did. We took this as a challenge, and you would be surprised that in a short span of just 60 days we were the cold chain division was up and ready. We had trucks on the road, we had cold rooms on the road, at many of our locations, and we started the first express parcel cold chain service in 2013, which ran through the last 6-7 years very, very successfully. Of course, the lockdown brought its own challenges, so there things changed, but yes, we were a mandated choice from the industry, so we sort of wanted to reciprocate and do something better than what the existing setup was doing. And I believe that from the recognition we've got in cold chain and the fact that I won't say most, I would say all the vaccine manufacturers have chosen us as their first choice of being a vendor partner for moving the much talked about COVID vaccine. So I think bringing in the right technology, bringing in the right contingency, sort of build safes, has really helped us be at the top of the game.
So from what we've been hearing around, Coolex is currently the largest company in this segment and also the larger mover of vaccines.
So I won't really know that, because we really don't scout around as to who the competition is, what kind of trucks.
That I think is being quite modest on your part.
Well, so at about 250 trucks we have a decent size. We are running our trucks very efficiently, and from what we believe, generally the industry is doing about 5,000-6,000 kilometers a truck a month. We are clocking about 10,000 a month currently, and we are looking at hitting 12,000 by December, and so with that we should be crossing our target of the 2 million kilometers a month is where we are heading. So in terms of turnaround, it's a very fast turnaround. We've got clients mapped at both ends. We've got a mix of pharma and premium FMCG food. Like when you talk about confectionery, we've got some of the top brands working with us. When you talk of vaccines, we've got all of them, fortunately being our clients. We've got the top 50 out of the 100 pharma companies working as clients. So we've got a good basket of clients, and we are shortly launching our warehouse facility on the Bombay-Pune highway, which would standalone, I believe, be the largest cold storage in the country, again at 20,000 pallets as a single structure, and it's coming up as a world-class facility with all the upgradations that the global market has today, in terms of the quality of construction, the equipment used, the insulation used, the kind of solar power that project will be, having the kind of footprint that it would have, the kind of facilities that the client would enjoy there. So we are looking at truly being a 4PL cold chain, which means that right from the manufacturing up to the consumption, we should be able to do the entire chain for the client.
Rahul, lockdown had a different kind of impact on different companies. Some really went downhill and some really managed to grow. What was the kind of impact of the lockdown on your business?
See, what happened during the lockdown was, fortunately or unfortunately, there was a lot of discussions that had gone back and forth between us and our employees and our truck drivers, because at the end of the day, if 95% of my revenue comes from fleet operations, it's very important that the drivers are on track. So we were able to retain our drivers during that period, and there was a lot of talk about the vaccine coming in. So I'll go back to March 20 when the actual lockdown started. So April and May was a bit slow. There was an impact to us also. Maybe 10-15% idling had gone up, and business had cautiously dropped to a certain point because most clients were also either not able to reach their warehouses or not able to run the production facilities. But I think from what we understood, the Ministry of Commerce had deputed a special secretary, logistics, who was coordinating with a lot of us. So the first alarm came when the Bombay airport got jammed, because neither was the imported consignment going out of the airport, neither were the exported consignments reaching the airport. So we got onto a call with some of the stakeholders. ETWA was one of the very active agencies then, which joined this whole consortium, and we were able to get the MIAL, we were able to get the logistics secretary and a couple of freight forwarders and transport companies on call, and we were able to sort of understand the issues with each other. Because see, if you look at MIAL, you got multi layers of clearing that take place. There's customs, there's clearing agent, there's documentation, there's the bankers involved, there's the loaders, the cold rooms. There's so many activities which are involved before which a cargo can either come out or go out. So the challenge was that none of them were able to reach the airport, and the truck drivers were very scared, because at that time the moment you spoke COVID, the death sign would loom on your head, and there was a lot of fear. So, for a person sitting, say, in the other end of Bombay, say in Panvel, and who's working in the MIAL airport, how does he commute? So the first challenge was, how do you get the manpower to reach? And if they are able to reach, how do you convince them to reach? And then you actually do the activity. So it was a mix of a lot of things that had to be ironed out. And fortunately, we had the Maharashtra government was equally supportive at that time. We had the chief secretary, we had the police commissioners, we had the municipal commissioners who were on call with us. So we were able to devise a very specific pass system for the pharma fraternity or the healthcare fraternity, because after food it's medicine, right? These are the two essentials. You may not have Amazon delivering you your electronics for a couple of days. You're not going to die out of that, right? But if you're not getting your food and medicine, so the government understood that pharma was probably one notch more essential than food, because at the end of the day it saves lives. So we got a lot of freedom operating in MMRDA, and even then the rest of Maharashtra followed. And so June onwards things moved back pretty quickly, and June to October, November we were running our normal operations, which were actually pre-COVID times. So that worked very well. And then January the vaccine came in, so then the rest of the story. Then we were fully occupied.
We are being joined by Kunal, who is in Pune on a Zoom call. Thank you, Kunal, for being with us. And Kunal, could you tell me what are the typical challenges that you have faced in the reefer segment?
If you look at it, as far as the reefer segment is concerned, it itself is a very challenging segment to begin with, because since we are dealing with food and pharma, essentially pharma, there is zero tolerance here. So these are not like normal trucks where we can just send them without any pre-inspection, etc. There are pre-inspection checks that happen if the insulation and all the temperature trackers and all the other gadgets and all the technology that is there in the truck is working or not. And is there any contamination, etc., anywhere in the truck? And then once it loads and leaves, the challenge is to monitor that continuously till it delivers in the same intact temperature range and the same, without any contamination or without any temperature breach. Especially in the case of vaccines, like, the COVID vaccines that we're carrying, they're highly sensitive and people are tracking them from all over. Like, the government is tracking them, the customers are tracking them. And of course, getting, turning your trucks around and getting them, reloaded is always a challenge for any trucker, be it dry or cold.
Kunal, we've learned that, the reefer segment is very challenging, because you have to follow a lot of SOPs and make sure that the drivers too follow those norms. How do you make sure that these things happen, and what kind of training do you give to your drivers and staff? So
motivation and training is something that is an ongoing process. It's not something that happens once a month or once a week or once a year annually. It's a daily process where every day people are being handheld and being told what is to be done, etc. And as far as the SOPs are there, they are very much in place and they're highly strictly followed, because our staff over the years are very well tuned and very they adhere to all the norms properly, that they know that okay, there is no chance of any lapse in while the truck is loading or en route or while unloading. There are clients who want a temperature report data, which has to be sent to them immediately, even at the time just before they start unloading also. So there are various kinds of things that these people do, and the SOPs are very much in place where they have to be followed, and the staff is very well adhered to now and very well versed with what to follow. So we have teams that are monitoring this 24 hours in different shifts.
Right.
And Kunal, according to you, what was the impact of lockdown and how have you managed the entire scenario?
So, well, as I mentioned earlier, since we are into pharma, which is part of essentials, of course, there was an impact in terms of turnaround of trucks, and there were a lot of trucks, that did not get unloaded and were held with at the consignee end for months, etc. So yes, there was a loss in terms of revenue, a monthly run rate that we are clocking. But overall, I would say that leaving the first couple of months, we were very much fully operational after that, thanks to the proactiveness of all the governments involved and all the authorities and regulatory authorities who were involved, and of course our entire team. And we were up and running in a couple of months after the lockdown.
We shall be continuing our interaction with Rahul and Kunal next week and knowing more about how challenging the transportation of vaccines were and what was the reaction amongst the drivers and how they managed to keep the drivers motivated to keep driving for long hours to ensure that the vaccines reached across the country well in time. But before we leave you this week, here's a special report on the BGTA Premier League coming up after this very short break. Stay tuned and keep watching Trans India.
याद है कुछ इसी तरह का स्टंट मैंने आज से करीब 30 साल पहले भी किया था, लेकिन आज इस डबल ट्रक्स के स्टंट की वजह कुछ और है। डबल गारंटी पेश है नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 जो आता है डबल गारंटी के साथ। महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनके नए महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 का माइलेज आपके मौजूदा ट्रक से ज्यादा है। अगर ऐसा नहीं हुआ तो कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस। नया महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो 7 आपको देता है गारंटीड रीसेल वैल्यू 5 साल के बाद। खरीदते समय माइलेज की गारंटी और बेचते समय रीसेल वैल्यू की गारंटी, तो हुई ना डबल गारंटी।
Welcome back, viewers. Here's a special preview on the upcoming Bombay Goods Transport Association Premier League, also known as the BPL. This is the 4th season of this cricket tournament organized by Bombay Goods Transport Association. The tournament, which is being sponsored by Ashok Leyland and Fleetex, will be held in Mumbai on December 18. Meanwhile, last week, team owners selected their players in a bidding that was as fierce and as competitive as one could see. Meanwhile, here are the teams competing for the coveted trophy this year. Crystal Panthers, GT Gladiators, BLR Warriors, SNGT Strikers, Express Tornadoes, MFC Master Blasters, Caravan Risers, Best All-Rounders, Surat Challengers, SSL Smashers, LGB Aces, Rainas Royals. Friends, we all know cricket is a religion in India. Who would not remember Kapil Dev or Mahendra Singh Dhoni lifting the World Cup? And BGTA has made its own tournament, and I'm sure many transporters out there are eager to play on the cricket field. And what a moment it would be when the winner lifts the trophy. It is BGTA's own World Cup. Stay tuned and we will get you more from the tournament. And next week we shall continue our interview with Rahul and Kunal Agarwal of Bhoruka Logistics to know more about the challenges in the movement of vaccines. The vaccines that will save a lot of lives and our future. And before you go, do remember to subscribe to Trans India, real people, real emotions. Jai Hind.